Hello and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I am Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and here we are once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have a couple of sickly looking lions lying prostrate on the front steps, and poor dears. We'll take care of them after we're done with this, shan't we, Dr. Frankenstein? I'll change into my prostrate exam gloves. Yes, I know. So, well, it seems like the plague has struck. Today, good thing I'm wearing my medical gear. Today in Sonnets 118 and 119, we've got some bitter pills to swallow. And if taking medicine that keeps you from getting sick makes you sick, I'll be the friend who holds back your hair as you perch above the porcelain and spill your guts out into it. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right down to it, and we'll start off with Sonnet 118. Sonnet 118. Like as to make our appetites more keen, with eager compounds we our palate urge. As to prevent our maladies unseen, we sicken to shun sickness when we purge. Even so, being full of your ne'er cloying sweetness, to bitter sauces did I frame my feeding, and, sick of welfare, found a kind of meetness to be diseased ere that there was true needing. Thus policy and love, to anticipate the ills that were not, grew to faults assured, and brought to medicine a healthful state, which rank of goodness would by ill be cured. But thence I learn, and find the lesson true, drugs poison him that so fell sick of you. Okay, so nurse Ratched, heal thyself. First quatrain here. Like as to make our appetites more keen. We start out with a food metaphor. Like as to make our appetites more keen, with eager compounds we our palate urge. And eager here is a cognate for acrid. So with bitter substances, we test our taste buds so that the meal that we savor later on will be more sweet or more palatable. But then we go right into the medical metaphor. Just as we do that, we take bitter substances to make the meal that follows taste better. As to prevent our maladies unseen, we sicken to shun sickness when we purge. So we take ipecac syrup to purge us of everything so that we don't become sick before we even become sick, is the logic here. And this, this is Shakespeare's time, so this is the time of bleeding and leeching and giving yourselves substances so that you vomit, so that it prevents you from becoming sick. And maladies unseen, as to prevent our maladies unseen. I mean, it seems to be saying, I've slept with all these other bitter Bobs and Berts and Bills just so I could appreciate your sweet self that much better. And maladies unseen seems to be saying, just in case either A, I got sick of you, B, you got sick of me, or 3, I needed a backup in case the sweet thing that we've got going goes all kablooey. Second quatrain. Even so, being full of your ne'er cloying sweetness. So in the 1609 quarto, ne'er cloying sweetness, the ne'er is spelled N-E-R-E, and that is amended by certain editors to N-E'-E-R or N-E-V-E-R for never. But when you do that, you lose the sense of the sound of ne'er, which can seem similarly close to or very close to the word near, N-E-A-R. So there's this play of never cloying sickness, sweetness, sorry, never cloying sweetness or near cloying sweetness. And then we have this bitter sauces again. So bitter sauces meaning like people of ill repute, or saucy dudes who happen to be around town. All these bitter dudes were just palate cleansers to frame my feeding. To bitter sauces did I frame my feeding, and sick of welfare found a meatness. So sometimes you're just not in the mood for sweetness. You need some meatness. And you know, not everyone needs a dessert every once in a while. You need some meat to chomp down upon. And meatness doesn't mean meat, but it plays with the actual term meat, M-E-A-T. This meatness is M-E-E-T, which is fitting or admirable. So I got, just to prevent myself getting comfortable in this good thing that we've got going, sick of welfare, I found a meetness, or I found it fitting to be diseased ere that there was true needing. So just as a preventative measure, I went out and sought all these other people just to show me how good you actually were. And that cured me. We find in the third quatrain. Thus policy and love, to anticipate the ills that were not, grew to faults assured. Well, you know, I thought I'd go out and toy around with all these saucy dudes. And this trifling with trash helped me appreciate how sweet you actually are. Not that you're too sweet, not that you're too sickeningly sweet, but just to be sure that I don't get sick of all that sweetness, I had to chop down on some spicy sauces that really did make me sick, and that cured me. The ills that were not grew to faults assured, and brought to medicine a healthful state. There you go. Which rank of goodness, which is rank could mean overgrown or foul, or it could mean lustful. Rank of goodness would by ill be cured. So I did all this just to cure myself in case I got sick before I got sick, because you never know, one could get sick, but not with you because you're so sweet. And you know, no one ever gets sick of anything too sweet. Then we get to the couplet. But thence I learn, and find the lesson true, drugs poison him that so fell sick of you. Well, I learned my lesson. I could never get sick of you. So I should never have tried to cure myself of getting sick of you before I got sick of you. I wasn't suffering from being sick of you, but I thought I'd try to cure myself, but it turns out I just made myself sick in doing that. So all of this is going on. And, you know, we talk about subtext and double entendres, but the language here does point to, you know, it's all about medicine and sickness. So there's a possibility that there could be some sort of venereal thing going on here. There are these eager compounds that one takes. The palate urging is the appetite, and we have appetites for food, and we also have appetites for sex. Sicken and purge, bitter sauces, diseased, faults assured, brought to medicine, rank, drugs poison him that so fell sick of you. So fell sick of you as if, you know, one were bored with you, which I could never do because you're so sweet, he says. So then we move along to Sonnet 119, where he seems to dig himself just a little bit deeper, and we go from poison, drugs poison him that so fell sick of you, to potions in the beginning of 119. What potions have I drunk? But let me read the whole thing to you. Sonnet 119. What potions have I drunk from siren tears, distilled from limbecks foul as hell within, applying fears to hopes, and hopes to fears, still losing when I saw myself to win? What wretched errors hath my heart committed, whilst it hath thought itself so blessed never? How have mine eyes out of their spheres been fitted in the distraction of this madding fever? O benefit of ill! Now I find true that better is by evil still made better, and ruined love, when it is built anew, grows fairer than at first, more strong, far greater. So I return rebuked to my content, and gain by ills thrice more than I have spent. So we move from poison to potions. The first quatrain. And all of these are these questions. What potions have I drunk? What wretched errors has my heart committed? How have mine eyes been out of their spheres have been fitted? You know, what have I been doing? I went a little crazy, as if I'd been poisoned or cursed or had a spell put on me. Siren tears, like, you know, think of the siren singing to Odysseus as he's lashed to the mainsail so that he doesn't get free. Someone's put a spell over me, and I seem to have gone a little bit crazy. How could that have happened? Distilled from limbecs, and limbecs are alembics, which is like a still, or it's a distilling device that's got all kinds of tubes and curves and all kinds of things like that. One might think of also a distillery where alcohol comes from. So he was drunk on something and he did things that maybe he shouldn't have done. What was I thinking? The narrator seems to be saying, when I was thinking that all of these conquests that I was making were actual conquests and not the real wounds that I know that they now are. Second quatrain. What wretched errors hath my heart committed, whilst it hath thought itself so blessed never, or whilst it had thought it was never so blessed. I was crazy, I tell you, out of my mind, bonkers, berserk. How have mine eyes out of their spheres been fitted? And by fitted, you think of a fit or a convulsion. And you also think of the cartoon eyes, the boing, 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 boing. How have mine eyes out of their spheres been fitted in this distraction of this madding fever? I was crazy. You know, what am I supposed to do? Don Patterson says that line 7, how have mine eyes out of their spheres been fitted, runs against the meter, which seems to add to the eyes popping out of the head image. I'll have to take his word for that, because my knowledge of meter and my ear for meter isn't always as good as someone like Don Patterson, who is a poet himself. But it works for me. It worked for me subconsciously, even if I didn't recognize that the meter was off. Then we get to the third quatrain, which, oh, benefit of ill. I am so happy. Oh, benefit of ill. I am so happy that those errors of my ways have shown me that I was wrong all along. Phew, right? Right? Am I right? I messed up, and I'm really sorry, is what's going on. Oh, benefit of ill, now I find true that better is by evil still made better. So you were good to begin with, but then I traipsed around town to these other trashy, trifling tricks, and I find that you're even better than they are. And guess what? Ruined love, when it is built anew, grows far fairer than at first, more strong, far greater. So it's a good thing I did this and messed everything up, because now we can really celebrate that we're back together and things are good. Then we get to the couplet. So I return rebuked to my content, my content, not content, my contentment. And this harks back to Sonnet 109, where the narrator says, "You are my home of love. This is where I am most content," which I find a really beautiful phrase. You are my home of love. Just let that sit. It's a really beautiful phrase. I'm content with you. I should have known all along. I am sorry. I am rebuked. And gained by ills thrice more than I have spent. Look at me. I'm a lucky, lucky, lucky guy to get you back after having done you so wrong so many times. And truth be told, this is sort of sweet in a messed up kind of way. I think. It's someone confessing their sins and not particularly sorry about having done it, but sorry that it didn't turn out well. And there could be a grain of truth in the fact that he sees, and also we don't know what the beloved has been doing all this time either. They may be both out on the town, and so they're trying to work it out. It seems to be what's going on. Now, is there a female or a male? Doesn't work when they're down. Well, just as well, because can't really tell. Limbex or alembics is, as I said, a distilling device that some say is suggestive of female genitalia, but then others say it's suggestive of male genitalia. So neither is, there's no demonstrative indication of whether there's a male or a female being spoken about in this poem in isolation. And as we saw in sonnets 40 to 42, we know that there has been some dabbling with the female by both the narrator and the beloved. And whatever ills that were distilled from these limbecs, it's only a third party that it describes. So even if it does describe a woman who gave them whatever ills that they are experiencing, maybe a chafing, maybe a rash, maybe a burning sensation, drip, 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 who knows? It's the third party that they're discussing and not the beloved or the narrator. So no identifiable gender. Dramatically, the scholars tell me that the architectural imagery of ruined love in line 12 can also be found in Comedy of Errors and also in Two Gentlemen of Verona. And apparently, though not cited in their discussion, the idea that the falling out of love between lovers is a renewal of love has many examples in Renaissance literature. But none of them were cited, and I don't know what they are, so I'll just have to take their words for it. This seems to be a trope that's used over and over again, so okay. Narratively, harking back to Sonnet 116's Love is not love. Remember, that's the marriage poem. Love is not love, which alters when it alterations finds. Excuse me. Harking back to Sonnet 116's Love is not love, which alters when it alterations finds. Or something like that. You can look it up on yourself. Perhaps I've had one too many cocktail party vocabulary words coursing through my brain. Anyway, if Sonnet 117 and Sonnet 118 and Sonnet 119 aren't prime examples of finding alteration, I don't know what is. The lover poet here clearly wants to have his cake and eat it too, and we all know that once that cake is eaten, it's gone and you can't get it back. So the previous sonnets have shown that neither the lover nor the beloved have been particularly saintly. They've both strayed, and so in some ways this is an honest-ish argument. They seem to be dealing with the infidelities of one another, and this is a very fraught relationship when taken in context. And I am at least torn between wishing they'd just like get out of it and call it quits, and hoping that they'll move past it. It's maybe just a phase in a new relationship where one's not quite sure enough of the other, and there is a hope that they will make it all work out despite their differences. But once again, we don't have the beloved side of the story. And I do have to say the contortions of logic in these sonnets doesn't exactly spell contentment with these two. I'm a little frightened about what might be coming, but we'll keep our eyes out for what comes next. Meanwhile, don't forget to keep your eyes out for all the wonder that is in your world, and for goodness sakes, pay attention. Until I recover from my vocabulary word cocktail party slurring, I will just say that I am Tootight Lautrec, and I'm happy you're here. I'm happy to see you, and take care.